I have never seen a disease that left many homes without their owners. People died, whole families vanished, and the silence in the village was heavier than the sound of drums during morning. There were no wedding ceremonies, no evening firesides, no market gatherings. Even the children, whose laughter once filled every path, stayed hidden inside their hearts. The joy that once painted our days was stolen, and what remained was a shadow that hung over us like a dark cloud that refused to drift away. It began like a whisper, a cough in the market, a fever in a neighbor's hut. At first we thought it was nothing unusual. In our village, sickness had always been something we fought with herbs, rest, and the wisdom of our elders. The leaves of the forest had healed countless fevers. Warm soups had revived the weak. Surely, we thought, this too would pass. Even the longest drought ends with rain, the elders said, so we did not fear. But this drought of life did not end. The cough spread like fire through dry grass. One morning, a teacher did not rise from his bed. The next, a farmer collapsed in his field, struggling to breathe. Still, no one understood what stalked us. Then the elders gave it a name, the stranger with no face. This stranger was unlike anything we had known. He had no body, no shadow. He entered homes without knocking and sat by the fire without invitation. We could not see him, yet he was everywhere. He stole breath, robbed voices, and carried away loved ones silently in the night. When a hyena prowls, you hear its laughter, people whispered. But this enemy has no sound. I saw things I thought I would never see. A strong man, who once carried logs heavier than goats, now sat gasping for air as if he had climbed a mountain. A young woman, proud of her cooking, wept because she could no longer taste or smell the food she had prepared. Even those who survived sometimes came back weaker, their hearts beating too fast, their minds foggy, their bodies tired. Some said the stranger left invisible scars inside them, wounds no eye could see, but that the body carried forever. The village healer shook her head. Her basket of herbs lay empty, her hands trembling with helplessness. "This is not a fever, I know," she whispered. For the first time, her eyes carried more fear than wisdom. Even the clinics in the towns, filled with doctors and medicines, could not hold back the flood. Beds overflowed. Families begged for oxygen. Air itself had become medicine. And how cruel it felt that the very thing the world had always given freely was now the most precious and rare. Fear became our neighbor. We stopped embracing. Cloth covered our mouths and noses. Mothers left food at doorsteps and hurried away. Lovers whispered across fences. The market was silent, the church bell rang, but found no footsteps. And the sound of children's games was replaced by the hum of insects in deserted fields. When fear sleeps in your heart, the elders reminded us, even the fire feels cold. Funerals, once the heartbeat of our mourning, turned into shadows. Bodies were buried quickly, with only a few mourners. No drums, no all-night songs, no crowds to share the sorrow. Some buried their dead at night, weeping into the darkness. Grief piled high because it had no place to flow. People carried pain like heavy stones, but they carried them alone, for gathering was forbidden. Our traditions cracked under the weight of the stranger. The elders feared the young would forget our customs, but they also reminded us of old wisdom. No night is so long that it does not end with dawn. And they whispered another truth. One person alone does not make a village. But the disease was cunning. Some carried it, but never showed signs. They walked among us looking healthy, yet their breath carried the stranger into other hearts. That was the most frightening thing. The enemy could ride on the breath of even a loved one. Trust turned into suspicion, laughter into careful distance. I began to fear even my closest kin, and my heart ached. For what is life if one fears the hands that raised you, the arms that once embraced you? Yet even in the darkness, we found sparks of light. We discovered new ways of love. Neighbors sang from their doorways so the sick would not feel alone. Families shared food across fences. Children drew shapes in the dust outside their huts, waving to friends from far away. The church prayed under the open sky, each family standing apart, but voices rising together. Love became an invisible bridge, built not by touch, but by intention. I remember one evening, the sun setting red behind the hills. From every heart came singing, songs of hope, songs of comfort. Their voices floated through the air, weaving together across the distance. For the first time in many moons, I felt the strength of unity. The stranger with no face had silenced our gatherings, but he could not silence our spirit. Even in the darkest cave, a spark still glows, an elder sang. But the days that followed became heavier than stones on our backs. Every morning, the rooster crowed, but instead of cheerful steps heading to the fields, silence stretched across the village. The smoke from cooking fires rose lazily, but there was no chatter of women pounding grain together, no laughter of children carrying water from the river. The air itself felt suspicious, as though every breath carried hidden danger. My neighbor Wanjiru, once the loudest voice in the market, became a shadow of herself. She no longer called out prices of her tomatoes. Instead, she sat at her doorway, staring at the empty road where customers used to gather. Her eldest son had been among the first to fall, and though he survived, he had never regained his strength. His cough lingered, and his steps were slower, like a man twice his age.